Yeah. I'm gonna say Black the goal, to be fair.
It wasn't
You
bad. It
can't
was a
do
bit,
much about that.
no, a bit of a nasty deflection and everything else on that one. So, but it's only one. But look, I just saw the Atletico goal, and that was some free kick. Ooh,
I've not even seen that one yet.
you
I've
to.
got the Liverpool game up, but I've not seen the Atletico one. But I did see that they were 1-0 up. That was all I knew. Um,
I just saw it as a half-time sort of highlights.
right. Well, that's one to
Looked
get.
one to watch. One to watch.
One to pull up in a minute. Right. Anyway, so shall we just crack on with the episode?
I
Um,
think so. I think so.
right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the College Football UK podcast brought to you by the AAW Network. I am your host, Fletch, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, just the one this week. It is Gary. Sir, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Looking forward to this. Just jumped off of a previous call with the guys at the 49er Faithful UK. So big shout out to them where we talked about drafts and crushes and stuff. And it was nice. Nice warm up for what we're going to be talking about today.
Lovely. Have the 49er faithful got anything good going on over draft season? Any draft parties? Any?
Yeah, we've got a Zoom call where we all be jumping on. Obviously for the 3 or 4 days we'll have a live Zoom call where everyone can drop in and out of. We may or may not have somebody attending the draft.
Wait to be
Secret.
seen.
Wait
Wait
to
to
be
be
seen.
seen. If
Maybe, maybe
someone
not.
does pull up, if someone does not, um, we'll keep an
Watch
eye
this
out for
space,
that.
but if somebody does turn up, you will recognize him, and you might not understand what he says because his accent might be quite thick. But you know, just putting it out there. And if you're
It
on
isn't it?
LinkedIn and you're a 49ers fan, you know this anyway because he's dropped it. He's dropped it. He's dropped
It's
the sneak peek on there already.
it's you, isn't it?
Mm-mm.
To be honest,
No.
I can't understand a word you say. I just guess
Half the
half the
time, well,
time.
half the time you don't listen to what I say, so that's the difference.
I mean Tuesday, honestly, it was probably Tuesday. That's at least the last time I saw it. Anyway, today we're continuing our draft previews position by position group. This week it's defensive lineman. Last week it was offensive lineman. And well, yeah, not much of an introduction needed to that one. This is a really interesting group. Very, very, very deep class of defensive linemen. Possibly the deepest position group in the class. Don't know. We'll have to talk about it. But before we get into it, don't forget you can follow us on the AAW Network on social media. Join our free to join Discord server, and you can find all the relevant links and information in the description of this episode. Excuse me. If you are on YouTube, they are right below our beautiful faces. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, you will find them inside the app in which you are listening on. Sorry, as has been mentioned, there is no Nick this week, so there is no Nick's news. I've got a couple of pieces. Have you seen anything this week, Gary? It's been quiet.
I have. It's been quiet. It's been a lot about the other round ball rather than the spherical ovoid that we like to talk about. So I haven't seen much in the way of news. I believe you picked up on something that might be worth talking about, however.
It will be worth talking about. Don't want to give it too much attention, but US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order as that pertains to college athletics that includes, I'm trying to get the details back up because I did have it up before. Uh, it's the like you can transfer, it's like one free transfer that you get in your collegiate career. Anything other than that, and you will have to redshirt for 1 year. Um, I'm sure there's something more, there's a couple more bits in there. Excuse me. I don't know what's wrong with me at this moment in time. I started one cough and then I can't stop.
So if you're allergic talking to me, that's what it is.
Got to be it. Normally I come out in a rash, but it's like hay fever now. Um, it was signed on April 1st, so
Ah, ah. It's about right for Donald Trump.
1 week ago. Um, and it includes, I'm trying to see if it includes anything else. It aims to overhaul rules around name, image, and likeness rights for student athletes, potentially giving them more freedom to profit off their personal brands. Um, Why it matters, the executive order could significantly disrupt the NCAA's long-standing amateurism model, which has faced growing criticism and legal challenges in recent years. However, the order's long-term viability and impact remain unclear, as it may face legal hurdles. And could be reversed by a future administration. Trump's executive order directs federal agencies to review and modify regulations to allow college athletes to earn money from the use of their name, image, and likeness. This could open the door for athletes to sign endorsement deals, profit from social media, and monetize their personal brands in ways that were previously prohibited by NCAA rules.
It's a load of waffle. It's never going to be. It's. He's got more important things to be worried about than trying to fix the NCAA and the NIL rules. We tried it last year. Tune into our off-season
Yeah.
breakdown of how to fix it. This isn't it. I don't know what he's trying to do there, but there's no teeth to this executive order. And how is it going to be enforced? What federal agencies are going to have to do that? Who have the time and the energy and whatever else after he gutted the federal agencies of recent times when they went through the whole, oh, let's get Elon Musk in to try and be more efficient and let's offload loads of people. Now suddenly we're going to come up with a whole new federal agency that's going to do that. Anyway,
Um,
let's
yeah.
not get
So
political, but it's another waste of hot air
it's a
by somebody that's,
farce at this
yeah.
moment in time, from all I can see. Yeah, don't want to get political. If it works, if it does help, great. But I don't see it being that being the way, and I see it getting a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
Um, in another piece of news, it's not college football related, but on Monday night slash Tuesday morning in the early hours, the everything school, the Michigan Wolverines, completed and won the college basketball men's national championship. On Sunday, it was won by UCLA, the
The
women's
women.
college
Yep.
basketball national championship. We cannot forget the women's basketball. But on Monday night, it was down to, like I said, the everything school that is the Michigan Wolverines, the first school in the CFP era to not just make both the college football and college basketball national championship, but win both tournaments in this era. They hold titles in all four major sports. Do you want me to keep telling you about all the amazing things this school continues to do, or
Do I want to, or are you going to anyway?
are you going to join me in a rendition of Hail to the Victors?
Probably not. I think you might need to call Egg for that one. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I just wanted to just remind everybody that the Michigan Wolverines are our college men's basketball national champions. And my other kind of point with it is the college football playoffs have been won over the last 3 years by Indiana this year, by Ohio State last year, and Michigan the year before that. The
Nice feeling.
college basketball women's national championship is owned by UCLA. The men's now is owned by Michigan. And obviously this year's, like I just said, is Indiana in football. The Big Ten basically runs college athletics. Just wanted to throw that one out there.
It's a bold statement. It's a bold approach, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them, shall we say?
I mean, there's a bold strategy. Oh, it didn't work out for them there, though, that bold
There
strategy that I've
you
just
go.
seen. Um, So yeah, like I said, just wanted to throw that out there. Keep reminding people that again, one more time, the everything school, great at every single sport, national champions multiple times at every single sport. The Michigan Wolverines are your national
It's
men's
quite nice
basketball
that
champ.
last week your trivia was around teams and colleges that have won them all, and here we are celebrating the
At
Wolverines
least
doing it.
don't look like you're celebrating, Gary. You say we're celebrating. You don't look
Oh,
like you're
well,
celebrating.
the network is celebrating with you, shall we say? How
Well,
about
yeah,
that?
got no
How about that?
choice.
Got no choice. Yeah, yeah.
There's
Kind
no
of like
choice
you've
really.
cracked the whip on us, and we've got no real choice on it. But
Right, before we get into it though, I will bring my Fletcher's trivia of the week. Actually, last week's trivia was around offensive linemen. Um, This week's
It
trivia,
was a drafted one, wasn't
as
it?
I am bringing back again, I'm gonna try and do it a bit around something that's relevant to this week's episode. Over the last, over history, there have been 15
Oof.
defensive linemen taken first overall, and
Mm.
15 defensive linemen taken second overall. Now, I'm not going to ask you to name all 30
Thank you. Good.
defensive linemen taken in the top two in history. What I will do is say that there have been 11 since 2000 taken both first and second overall. I'm going to ask you how many of them that you can name.
Weirdly
Please
enough,
join in at home.
probably not as many as I should.
Let's start with first overalls, at least. We'll start with some first overalls. You should be able to get some of them.
I should be able to get some. Was Bosa taken first overall?
Bosa was not taken
He
first
wasn't, was
overall.
he? Crosby? No, Crosby wasn't either.
Where was he taken, though, Gary? If he wasn't taken first
Second. He
overall,
was taken.
Nick Bosa was taken second overall in
Hmm.
2019.
Hmm. Will Anderson was taken second. No, he was after Stroud.
Anderson was third
Third,
because
yeah.
that was the year that the Texans came up to fourth as well
They
and
gave
got.
Stroud and Anderson on the same
Oh yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, it was they got Stroud at second, came up and got Anderson third.
Yeah, but they won that draft. Um,
Got to tell that to the bunch of picks they had in the
no, we are not that.
playoffs.
No. Um, uh, Eric Armstead. No, no. Donald must have been a one.
Donald was not a one.
What? Who's the New Orleans Saints guy?
Donald was
Hayworth?
13th overall.
Easy. But I mean, you'd think there'd be more. You'd think these big names on defense. You think the Bosa brothers. You'd think Dexter Lawrence. No, he wasn't. No, not Miles Garrett, surely.
Miles Garrett was number one overall in 2017.
TJ Watt.
TJ Watt was not. And he is technically not a
What about his
defensive
brother?
lineman. JJ Watt, no. JJ Watt was 11th overall because I think if you remember, do you remember the video of the Bills taking. No, there is the video of the Texans taking him and all the fans kicking off at like 11th or something like that.
Mm,
And look, yeah, a load of the fans were kicking off at the time. Well, oh, JJ Watt, we shouldn't be taking JJ Watt. 11th, yeah, 2011,
11.
11th overall. So far, out of the 11, you've got two.
Who? We're doing well. We're doing well. Doing well. Oh, hang on. Didn't the Jags take somebody?
They did.
You just recently they just gave them a contract extension. Ah,
They did.
we're uh,
Trayvon
Trayvon, Walker,
Walker,
Trayvon
Trayvon
Walker.
Walker in 2022. Now, that is one of only two occasions where defensive linemen have gone both first and second overall together. Who went after him? It was a bit. It
Oh,
was one of the last times where it was a true debate going into the
it was
draft.
the one too, wasn't he? Did he go to? Oh, he went to Atlanta, didn't he?
No, he did not.
No. Oh, he was two
Defensive
in.
lineman, second overall, went to a particular franchise that um
Was it Hutchinson?
Aiden Hutchinson, yes.
Yeah, there we go. Uh, who's the other one then?
Feel like
Who else is there? Ah,
so you've got 20. Obviously, you've got the last two first overalls taken. You've got Aiden
hmm,
Hutchinson from 2022, Nick Bosa from 2019 in terms of excuse me, second overalls. There is
hmm.
someone from 2020.
2020. Joe Burrow went 2020 though.
And
Who was second in 2020? Like, didn't Clowney go early as well?
Clowney did. Um, Jadavion Clowney.
Yeah.
He was first overall in 2014.
There you go. I told you. I thought he was early.
Second overall in 2020 went to the Commanders.
He didn't stay there
Then,
though
no, because he ended up on the 49ers for a year
for a year.
and then went to the Saints and has been at the Saints since.
Clear Dave. No. No. What's his name? Jake.
Nope.
No. No. 2020. No. Oh, Kinlaw.
Nope.
No, he went
De
third.
Defensive
Jadavion.
lineman came from the Commanders to the 49ers and only spent a year at the 49ers. It was
Oh, Chase Young.
half.
Chase
There we
Young.
go, Chase Young.
Yes.
Um, I'll just to save time at where we're at. The two others, there were two more first overalls since 2000. You had Mario Williams in 2006, and in the
Oh,
year 2000, it was Courtney Brown. And then you also have in second overall in 2010 and Dominican Sue.
awesome.
2008, it was Chris Long. And in 2002, it was Julius Peppers.
Hmm. There we go.
So,
It's interesting though because and I'm sure we'll get into it. Edge rushers have become such key factors for defense recent, but I suppose it's more of a recent thing. But again, as Nick said last week, you pay your mortgage with your QB, you pay your insurance with your offensive tackles and your offensive linemen. Are your edges and your D linemen, are they really your third or fourth most important? Usually the edges are, and your edges and your D line are your picks that you put in when your offense is sorted, right?
kind of, I think kind of, and they should be, and this is personal preference rather than um like this is how it is done, this is how the best do it.
Mm,
My personal preference is you build your defense front to back, not back to front.
mm.
Some teams will do it differently. Some teams will go DBs and then sort out your defensive front. Some people, and my preference is sort out your defensive front and then move your way back because I truly believe that a damn good edge rusher, unless you're the Cleveland Browns, having an elite edge rusher and having a really good front four can seriously set
Well, front
that team up
seven. I
for
mean, it's usually
success.
your front seven you've got to look at, isn't it? 4-3-3-4 depends on how your defense is set up. But I agree with you. You can't really that your front seven set the tone of your defense.
Yes,
So having the best, backfield, having the best safety and the best cornerbacks and whatever else, it's all well and good. But if your front seven is not getting pressure and not able to do anything, those guys are going to get torched all the time.
I
If
will.
your front seven isn't there and thereabouts, that's where you really need the strength.
I will pick this back up in 1 second because there is something I want to mention on it and it will nicely take us in. Just a couple of interesting thoughts. So when I was going through the picks,
Mm,
um, historically, is just how often a top two pick is used on a defensive lineman.
yeah.
Um, and how look, it's the first offensive defensive lineman taken in a draft first or second overall was 1967. That was Bubba Smith out of Michigan State.
What a name. What a name.
Since then, it'll be what, 40, 60 years, sorry. This next draft, since the first time a defensive end was taken first overall. And then there's been 30. So every 2 years on average, roughly, a defensive edge or defensive tackle is taken in the top two. Only twice in history has it ever happened where two were taken in the top two. In 2022, Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson, and in 1972, where Walt Patulski and Sherman White were both taken in the top two.
There you go.
But my favorite of the lot of them, there have been 15 and 15. It's 15 and 15 of each, right?
Yeah.
15 defense, 15 edges, 15 tackles. No, sorry, no, that's not correct. 15 first, 15 second, but only a handful of defensive tackles.
Tackles, yeah. Your
And I
defensive
thought,
tackles, for some
yeah,
reason, don't get the love, do they? I mean, often in college, and just while I'm doing this, I'm going to shout out College Days and Ollie. I just listened to their recent podcast, and they were doing offensive linemen and defensive linemen on that one. Great podcast. Go and listen to it. I think it was one of the guys said they don't get the stats. You don't see the defensive tackles or the interior defensive linemen. They don't get the flashy plays. They don't get all the stats. They don't get all the numbers, but they allow everybody else around them to do that. They're the ones who allow your edges and your linebackers and everything else to get the stats and the tackles and everything. But yeah, it's interesting, but it's not that surprising.
no,
Also, I suppose you got to think in college, a lot of it is physical, right? If you're a big lad in college, you're going to win majority of your matchups just because of sheer physicality and whatever else. If you're a big 21-year-old versus, you develop slightly earlier and you're a big lad, you're winning on a physical side of things more often than not. When you get into the NFL, when you've got, guys who have been around the league and got bigger and technically and whatever else, the defensive tackles are harder to transition, I think, to continue that. You can have a completely outstanding defensive tackle at college who may go into the NFL and everyone goes, oh, this guy's going to light it up. And literally find out that, hey, he's been great in college because all he's done is just bully smaller guys. He walked into
yeah,
the NFL and gone, hey, welcome to the NFL. You're in with the pros now. This is where it gets nasty.
yeah,
So it's not that surprising. But as you say, edges, because they're the ones that are the flashier, get the stats, get the sacks, etc. They tend to be the ones who are going to go more often than not earlier.
yeah. Since 2000, by the way, only one of the people taken in the top two have been a defensive tackle. Can you remember which one that one was? I always said his name. Absolute wrecking ball. Now on Sky Sports a lot.
Sue.
Ndamukong Suh, taken by the Detroit
Oh,
Lions.
he was at the Lions. He was drafted by
He
the
was.
Lions, wasn't he?
He was spent his entire rookie contract at the Lions, and then absolutely hated it here. Went to the Dolphins,
Bucks,
and I do
Dolphins.
not blame him because it was different ownership, different everything else, and it was not a great organization to play for.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible organization to be a fan of at 4 in the morning. Even worse to do that. Anyway, moving on to the actual conversation at hand, we're gonna start talking defensive linemen now. As I did last week, let's set this conversation up a little bit. So, Gary, when you are looking at these defensive linemen, are you much of a tape guy? Do you like watching much of the tape? I could set
I
this one last week by Nick because I knew he watched tape.
Yeah.
So, are you much of a
This
tape guy?
no, I'm more of an eye test with defensive linemen. Um, you can kind of the ones that stand out, the ones that kind of as you're watching a game, you kind of go, "It's him again! It's him again! He's in the backfield. He's causing pressure." Not so much tape on each and every individual. It's more the eye test for a lot of these guys.
Right,
Is how I kind of look at it. So
right. Okay. So I was saying I really enjoy I do enjoy watching tape. I'm not gonna it's something that's new to me as an enjoying thing,
mm,
but I have enjoyed over the last I have enjoyed watching tape a bit. So when watching defensive linemen, what I've tended to look for is there are multiple types of defensive linemen, and this isn't just like defensive end or defensive tackle. This is who are your fast guys, who are your physical guys, who are the athletic types, who are the bull rush types,
yeah,
we spoke a lot about obviously when we were talking about offensive linemen last week. It says that we start talking about you have to obviously then talk about defensive linemen because that's who they're going up against. So I think we kind of leaned into some of the things that a defensive lineman needs to be able to do by saying what the offensive linemen also need to do.
yeah,
Um, Look, at the end of the day, I'm going to break it down into a couple of things. A defensive end, there are things you look at on tape and things you don't. Any tape where they're dropping back into pass coverage, which is rare, but it happens,
yeah,
I don't care about, right? I don't care if my defensive end can drop back into pass coverage. In fact, I
No.
don't really want him to, and he's got to do it one every 1,000 snaps, one every few hundred snaps. I don't care. What I'm looking at for is how quick are they up off the line? Are they a hand in the dirt kind of guy? Are they a stand up, slightly leaning forward, kind of in a wide receiver stance at the line? How far are they playing off the edge? How far are they playing in between the tackles? What technique are they playing in? How quick are they off the line? What's the hand speed like off the line? Where are they placing hands? Where are they? Um, what are their? We spoke last week about counter moves that offensive linemen have to do. That's because defensive linemen should typically, especially if we're looking at edges, have more than one move that they
Hmm.
use to beat an offensive lineman. That's why offensive linemen need to counter. So it's, do they have multiple moves, or is it a guy who's just big? And as you say, you talk about physicality. Is he winning purely on physicality? Does he have the ability to use speed, use toughness? Does he do a spin move? And what's that spin move like? Does he do a swim move? What's that swim move like? Is he twitchy? There's all these different things. And then there's, like I say, the hand placement, how strong is he at the line? And all of those different things. Um, with that in mind, though, Gary, how do you see the defensive end position, particularly as far as the NFL goes? How has that changed over the years?
Yeah, I think the NFL and much like not just at the end, but in all positions, have started to favor, lean into whatever, highly emphasize just pure athleticism over maybe technicalities, maybe um, being polished better. I think there's a lot of this guy's a pure, he's an athlete. Therefore, let's draft him and we can mold him a little more.
Yeah.
But the athletic traits are the ones that have been much more highly sought after rather than the edge guy who's 6'4", 320 pounds. It doesn't. Some of them might not tick the nominal edge boxes of he's shorter arms. There's a couple of guys who are, you know, size is going to be an issue or arm length, etc. Whereas it used to be, you had to be 6'5", you used to be 340 pounds, you used to be able to do this. And, if you were that, then you were an edge. Whereas now it's like you can be 6'1", but you could be, you know, fast as a bullet and really athletic and be able to do a lot more. I think in general, NFL defenses are becoming a lot more, and this is going to be a UK specific, rugby league esque, just pure athletes. Put the best athletes in the best places for them. The most athletic guy on your defense, if he's the biggest guy, put him in edge. He'll just outdo the other guy on just pure athleticism. So I think that's interesting, sort of the way it's going. Um,
Yeah.
as you say, explosiveness and technical sort of nuances. I think they just kind of look at it and go, we can coach that. We've got D-line coaches who can coach these
Yeah.
players. They're coming out of college. Most of them are raw. Most of them are 20. The good ones go earlier. They don't do the full college, full 4 years. Most of them come out year three because they're like, let's get into the NFL as early as possible because it's a brutal, not for long league as we call it.
Yeah.
Therefore, a lot of them are coming out not the finished article, and I think that's true of this year's draft class as well. There's definitely not the finished article and a number of them, but there's a lot of coaching clay there that can be really molded to what you need.
Yeah. Just to add to that, as I'm looking at the defensive end position, how um well, defensive line as a whole, but defensive end in particular, you're dealing with a new brand of offense that has changed significantly over the last 7,
10?
8 years.
So, yeah.
Um, that being the mobile quarterback. Now, let's not, obviously, mobile quarterbacks have existed in the league for as long as you can. They just weren't the norm. Now they are
Oh,
the
hey,
norm.
I love the stat that Harbaugh's got better rushing yards than Bo Jackson.
Yes, he does. Um, but I love when that question keeps running around, from the staff
But the
meeting, well,
coaches
the
get
head
asked, yeah,
coaches meeting last year.
yeah.
But what I mobile quarterbacks have always existed. They just weren't the norm. Now with mobile quarterbacks being the norm and traditional pocket passers, not so much. NFL teams, defensive ends now have to be able to account for. And we spoke about this again with offensive linemen. You have to be able to block out when you know that your quarterback's escaping out the other side. Defensive line, you have to be able to go and chase the quarterback when he gets out of the pocket because the quarterback will now like to go out of the pocket and make
Mm.
things happen. Maybe
It's not
run.
all about funneling inwards where it used to be, push them all
Yeah,
inside, internal pressure, and then you've got enough bodies there. It's all about setting the edge, and literally now
yeah.
setting the edge. Whereas before you were a defensive end,
So
now you're an edge, and I think
yeah,
that's the change. You used to be a defensive end, so you were the end of the line. Now you're an edge rusher, which means the emphasis is on edge and setting the edge of that sort of the whole defense.
yeah, and outside linebackers being edges is now a thing that has, I think, kind of come into play over the last few years. I don't
Mm.
really remember when I started watching the NFL, they were like, he's an edge, but he's also an outside linebacker, but he's also a this. It was just you're a
You're a
linebacker
linebacker
or,
or a
or a
defensive
defensive
line.
end.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's it. You one of the two. Sometimes positions slightly merge, so you'd have dual responsibilities, but you were either in it defensive end or a linebacker, and that was it. You just might.
yeah.
Um, One of the things I think that was interesting, especially when looking at is, well, I went back a little bit, and it was a really fun little history trip. 10 years ago, you were starting to lose out on some of these opportunities, but say in the 90s, if you beat your counterpart offensive lineman, you probably
Hmm.
had a one-on-one with the
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah, you,
You
you
don't
you
get
beat
one-on-ones
you beat
anymore.
your guy, and then you're on your clear run, and you got a
Yeah,
chance to smash somebody. Yeah,
you don't get that really in the NFL anymore because one, the
zone
quarterback can
blocking.
escape
Mhm.
and run and get away from you, but also similarly, time to throw in the pocket is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and that's not for any other reason. That's by design. That's teams getting the ball out quickly. That's teams getting the ball and being efficient with passing and getting the ball and moving the ball around. As a defensive lineman, and look, Miles Garrett's just broke the sack record, right? So it's not saying that you can't get sacks anymore, and sacks are really hard to come by. They are a little bit more as a whole across the league, slightly more difficult to come by. What you do get the chance for, and this is where some of these sacks are coming in for place now, is I don't want to call it a cheap sack, but it's kind of a cheap where a quarterback rolls out and you're able to kind of pull him and it counts as a sack, even though technically they're running, it's a tackle. You get a sack for
Yeah,
that.
it still calls a sack, but it's a tackle outside of the tackle box, and therefore, yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, where it comes from in terms of evaluating how the positions changed, it's these guys becoming more athletic to keep up with the athletic quarterbacks, to keep up with the fact that they have to have so many different more moves and rushes because offensive lines are getting smarter, offensive linemen are getting more athletic, and you're now having to deal with the fact that the likelihood of you getting a one-on-one with the quarterback is a lot more sparring.
Yeah.
Um, so as we go into some of these guys, these are the things we're going to be bringing up. Last question, um, why? I mean, you've kind of touched on it already. Why do you think that? On occasions, and the NFL seems to go through, as we always know, it's a copycat league. It's a league in flux all the time. It's constantly evolving and changing. So sometimes defensive linemen are there's like spurts of defensive linemen being really popular in the top couple of picks, and then there's a year or two where they're not really there, and you don't see them for 5 years, and then you see them again a few times, and then you don't see them again a few times.
Mm.
Why do you think the league goes through spurts of finding defensive linemen and taking them so highly?
I think it's the natural evolution, as you say. The league is always changing, copycat, learning from college football, bringing new coaches, the coaching carousel of coaches who coach in college, then move to the NFL and bring that college sort of nuance with them. And it takes the league a year or two to kind of go, oh, we need to counter that. How did they counter it in college? Oh, they got the defensive linemen who were able to do X, Y, Z, were more athletic, more quick, and could do this. Therefore, we need to go out and get some of those. And I think it's that sort of natural. The coaches come in, they change things up in the NFL. It's always an offensive first league now, where it's so soft you can't touch anyone without getting a penalty. When I was playing, when I used to watch it, that the safeties and cornerbacks and defensive backs could absolutely level out receivers. Now you can barely breathe on them. The quarterbacks can run around and do whatever they
Yeah,
like and
didn't
fake you
expect
out.
a
And
boomer take. Back in my day,
yeah,
football,
back in
proper
my day,
football, none of this
proper
flag crap.
football, none of this flag football rubbish. Um, but yeah, and I think it's that, it's so coaches come in from college, they have their ideas from college. The NFL is set in a certain way and homogenized at a certain level. So the coaches change it, and then the NFL goes, right, how do we counter that? Right. They countered it in college by having bigger defensive linemen or defensive linemen that were faster, or they just got lumps in and did that. So then they'll suddenly 2 years, 3 years, you'll have a let's get the defense back to catch up and stop that offense rather than match it in do our because I think what happens is an offense comes along and everyone goes, blimey, that's great. So they copy the offense initially, and then they go, right, we've got that offense now, or we've got that offense in our own format. How do we now stop the other team? Initially, it's copy them to do the same, and then it's try to stop them. And I think that's how you end up with those years of offense heavy drafts, and then, oh, we need to get some defensive guys in to stop all of this stuff. I think that's the natural kind of way that the offense and the league goes. And, as we've mentioned, the draft is always counted and targeted towards making the worst teams better. And
Mm-hmm.
often you're the worst team because your offense sucks. So most of the time you're going to be using your offensive, you're going to be using your picks on strengthening your offense. But sometimes you can just have a year, where your offense is either completely injured or whatever else. The Niners a few years back, had a decimated offense. So they had a bad year. The defense was stacked. They were okay. So they could kind of flip around a bit. But when the offense came back and was, were then fit and healthy, they could use their picks on defense. And I think it's just a bit of back and forth like that, where you can pick and choose. Sometimes using I don't want to say a luxury pick on a defensive end or an edge sometimes, because it's not that, but it's often a piece that elevates your already reasonably good defense to an elite level, like Hutchinson at the Lions, or Bosa at the Niners. That was a good defense, but that pick elevated it. It gave it that star quality.
Yeah. I think one of the things as well, though, just really quick for me is you'll have years where there's some really, really good wide receivers in college, right? And you'll college football will pump out 2, 3 years where wide receivers are the best thing, like constantly the best thing coming out, maybe the deepest class, maybe all these different things. Then just after that, you have a stretch of really good DBs.
Yeah.
You go through a stretch of really good offensive linemen, and then a stretch of even better defense. And sometimes I think some of it's that, right? So maybe it's a rule change that benefits the offensive linemen. Offensive linemen get better, the NFL want them, but then schools learn, players get better, defensive linemen get better, and then they're playing against these rules. So the whole iron sharpens iron, and sometimes I feel like you also see some of the fluctuation in one
Mm.
position group's really good. So 2 years later, their
The opposition.
counterparts that
Yeah.
they constantly go up against are better
Yeah.
because they've had to get better to combat this really good position.
Yeah. Or in
Um,
college, like you've specifically gone out and your recruiting class has gone, we need some good DBs because the wide receivers have been really good the last couple of years.
yeah.
Let's go pick up some really good DBs, and then they come through, and then you find out like this class is a good defensive back class.
Mhm.
Um, because the receivers have been pretty good in college in the last couple of years. Colleges have had to go out and find some good DBs. They're out there. They're coming through now.
Yeah.
It's similar
Um,
to the NFL. You've had a spate of some star wide receivers. Now we may be getting towards the star cornerback, star defensive back era, which is interesting to see because it could then change how the game is played at the professional level. Because if the DBs are now
yeah.
at a level matching, does that bring the run game back into effect? Do running backs now start to become a more sought after, commodity for teams? And therefore, if the running backs become more important, your offensive linemen become important. And guess what? Once the offensive linemen become important,
Yeah.
then your defensive ends and your defensive tackles become important because you need to stop the run. And again, we're in the cycle of how it moves.
And you said you also look at some of the rule changes, like the if you can, and let's go along with Boomer Take for just 2 minutes and go when back in my day when football was proper football played by men, right?
In the
Right,
mud,
and none of this flag crap, right, where you could tackle each other like men.
you properly put your helmet on somebody.
And when you start to favour look, some of the tackling has to change and some all the other. So what then? Rather than it being just pure physicality, the technique has to be better. The athleticism has to be better. If you're a corner, you can't just go in and slam into somebody when you've just got to be more technical and better and more fluid. But also, at the end of the day, the more we learn, the better we get. Like what was top technology in the NFL 10 years ago is now decent technology in college,
Yeah,
at Mac schools and in mid-major programs. Whereas like so some of the best facilities, so these kids are getting from a younger age, they're getting better care, taking better care of the bodies, and we're just naturally seeing better athletes anyway. Anyway,
yeah,
um going into the defensive ends of the class, if that's I think the way we're going to do it, I'll try and keep it as close to how Nick's done it. Um, there is for me a clear, from what everything I see, there is a clear top two in this class, and that those come in the form of Texas Tech's David Bailey and Miami's Rueben Bain. I've seen them flipping constantly.
yeah,
Um, in both ways you can take that. I hear their names all of the time and they consistently change positions. So double entendre and I hear them flipping all the time.
yeah.
Um, in your opinion, do you have a clear number one out of these two?
I I lean towards Ruben Bain Jr., but again, it could just be that on the day, no, and it's a scheme fit. I don't think there's much between the two. I don't think there's a clear, one and two. There's a clear 1-2, but there's not a clear he's better than the other guy. Ruben Bain Jr., David Bailey. You get either of those, you're going to be a happy GM. You're going to be a happy coach, etc. You're not going to be upset that you've taken them where you've taken them. I think, as I say, I just think I just like Ruben Bain Jr.'s mentality of playing. I just think he's got that Miami unhinged violence to him that just Miami and Florida, they have. Um, versus Bailey, who's just a bit more refined, very quick, lots of different moves and technically more sound, possibly.
Yeah.
So I think they'll both have great NFL careers. I just like Ruben Bain being just a bit more in your face, angry, violent, versus a bit more polished that Bailey is. That's just a. But again, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
Yeah. With Nick not being able to make it, I have got a message off him that he would like to share in on the defensive ends. Edge is a huge deep class,
Yeah,
quality and depth, well into round three. High ceiling, low floor sleepers to be found in day three. Messador is perfect for a team that ready to make a run. Jets are crazy not to take Bain Jr. at number two.
yeah,
And I don't understand the fascination with Zion Young. Doesn't fill me with confidence based on tape from 24 and 25. Um, I will invite him into this conversation specifically because I followed up on one specific point that he made in that, and I will bring that back up in a minute. So, David Bailey um, is one of the more, I can't figure him out.
Yeah,
I really can't figure him out. And he is a fantastic, phenomenal athlete. Um, Particularly for someone who tries to beat up photographers, he's fantastic.
he is.
Um,
Yeah,
he's fast, he's explosive, he's athletic. He stays square with quarterbacks all the time. Good counter moves. Excellent. Excuse me. Excuse me. Good pass rush moves, even not counters. Uh, the agility, the speed, the power. He's got a great ball rush, push
yes.
back. I was watching him take the offensive lineman back 4, 5, 6 yards at a
Yeah,
time. When he really wants to, he can do that. Pass rush wise, he is the best pure pass rusher in this draft. He has an excellent he has his get off is
mm,
the best in the class. Not even close.
yeah,
Not often. He's not often handing the dirt. He's more of a stand in a lean wide receiver type stance.
yeah,
Gets low, but not handing the dirt. He plays downhill all the time. Like I say, the amount of times I've seen him, he's kind of gone round, he's taken on the shoulder, but he's got such agility that he always manages to stay square with the quarterback, and
yeah,
that is one of the best traits that you can have as a defensive lineman, especially when you're setting the edge. Stay square, because in this new era of quarterbacks who can run all the time, if you
yeah,
are not square on them and you bite at whatever move they make, you have the
yeah,
tendency to get left behind and passes get thrown. Um, and the main thing I want to bring up about him, alongside all of these things, is his motor is
yeah,
relentless.
yeah. He's got an engine. He just doesn't stop. Some players, have got issues around their fitness, shall we say? Some of them. Not this guy. Definitely not this guy. He just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. Um, yeah, an absolute unit. Um, as I say, both these top two are going to have no problems having a great NFL career. Where they go is anybody's guess. I do think they're top 10, 15 picks, both of them. Again, with how the board falls, it's hard to determine who gets where. But as Nick says, if Rueben Bain Jr. isn't picked by either the Jets or the Cardinals, although the Cardinals probably need an offensive tackle more than anything else, it's insane. They're both absolute ball. They're both wreckers of the game.
One of these is going top five.
Yes,
One of them is going top five. I'm going to say this as well, though, on David Bailey. Problem in the run game.
yeah, can get
Um,
can get too upright. I think can also.
so,
He's not got the bulk to block up either, has he? So
so one more say just some things to say is like whenever an offensive lineman got square with him, he was displaced.
yeah,
Immediately displaced and couldn't find himself back. Gets pushed out a lot, loses his gap a lot. Pad level work again in the run game, not great, and he can often find himself, yeah, just low level pad work, needs work, gets caught. And another thing is like I saw some of the concepts. It's like I saw like you see some people say he's got a great IQ, but then they don't show some of the other things. And I don't think his IQ is that great at football, with all due
mm,
respect to him, because the amount of times I've seen some RPOs and it's ended up they've taken the R rather than the P and in
hmm
that O. Um, he's just got caught. Like he doesn't know what he's doing and kind of just stuck on an island. He doesn't seem to understand what's going on and doesn't know how to correct it. And this is where I'm coming from. I'll come from in the sense that like he has when it works, and he can obviously there are plenty of other snaps and parts of his tape where he's plugged the run well, he's found the guy well, and that some of those are runs up the middle. So he's going for the quarterback, and it just so happens he hits the running back as they get given the ball. If he sees the running back get the ball, he will be okay. But sometimes he can get caught not knowing exactly what to do. And in some of the zone blocking schemes that he does struggle with. But
Mm.
he's relentless in the sense like if you just give him, if he knows what he's going to do on that snap, he's going to do it. And this is where I think some of the kind of catching him out when if he's decided he's going to bull rush to the
Yeah,
quarterback and then
that's
you
it. Yeah.
run it, he
He,
loses himself because his thing isn't the right. Like he doesn't know what to
he
do after.
doesn't he doesn't have that ability to pull out of the ball rush. He's just like I'm ball
It's
rushing, no
it's
matter what type thing. Yeah.
yeah. It's for me. It's the whole that I'm, or even if he goes, I'm gonna beat you on speed round the outside of your shoulder. If the play doesn't work out the way he needs it to, it just doesn't work out. And I think that's the great thing about him is his motor is relentless. He will keep going and going and going and going and going. But if it's not right, if the play isn't the
He
right
just
thing
keep
that he
yeah.
was
He,
thinking
he
of,
might just keep going in the wrong
got a
direction,
plan,
doing the
he's
wrong stuff. Yeah.
executing that plan, and that's
Yeah.
it, right? That's it. He's not changing his plan or position or anything halfway through. Going back onto Ruben Bain Jr., and this question I want to ask you is he's short.
Yeah.
He's short. Oh, by the way, I'll say this on
He's
David
six
Bailey.
three. He's
S-
6'3". He's not short. He's
So,
not
well,
maybe your archetypal edge, but he's only an inch shorter than David Bailey.
so I'm gonna say sorry. I'll say this on David Bailey. 6'4", 240 to 250. He's 10 and a quarter inch hands, 33 and three-quarter inch
33 and three
arms.
quarter. Yeah.
4.540, 10-second split was 1.62. He has a relative athletic score of 9.65 out of 10. That is very, very, very high.
It's very good. It's like upper 90 percentile of whatever. Yeah.
Ruben Bay Jr., I've got him at 6'2", 260. By the way, David Bailey, I'll say I think his frame's maxed out at 250. You aren't going to get him
He's
bulkier
not he's
than
not
that without
bulking
causing
much of that,
problems.
is it? Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Ruben Payne Jr., 6'2", 260, hand size 9 and 1/8 inches. Very small hands. Arms are 30 and 7/8 inches. Very small arms. 40 time was 4.72, and his relative athletic score, they don't have the scores on it, so he cannot be tested for it and does not get a RAS score. Um,
Do you not do
but
it at a pro day or something then? Did not
I think there were
measure?
some drills he didn't take part in
Hmm. Yeah, it
for
was
him
one
to
of
get a
those. Oh,
full.
yeah, yeah,
But shorter body, slightly shorter, but a couple of inches shorter. But it's his arms and his hands that are
yeah.
the measurables that really stand out. As like his hands are well over an
Clubs,
inch
but there's
shorter than
yeah.
David Bailey's. His arms are nearly 3 inches shorter than David Bailey's. And I'm a believer in it's okay. It's not the end of the world unless it shows on your it does show on your tape. And there are times
There are
it
times
shows
when
on tape.
it shows when he can get out leveraged, and I think the problem with Bain is he's going in as an edge, but I think he's better
Go on, I think you're about
into.
to say
I
something
think
what I
he's
want.
better sliding more as an interior lineman. I think he'll be one of those. He can play edge for you. You can throw him out there, and he'll do a really good job on run blocking and then stuff on the outside. But internally is where I think his violence and his strength and his power and all the moves that he's got. And having slightly shorter arms isn't going to be such a detrimental thing when you're going up against guards and stuff because you can get inside their pads and you can be more violent and more disruptive. So I think he's unfortunate in if he's being measured against the archetypal defensive end, then yes, but I don't think long term he'll play out and out edge. He'll play that in between in defensive line, and he'll move up and
Yeah.
down, which
Edge of a
could also come as a benefit to some teams who can say, "Hey, we get one player who can play three different positions. Great, we'll go with him." Rather than the out and out David Bailey just plays edge.
edge of a 3-4 or tackle in a 4-3. I think
Yeah,
that's where you'll have Ruben Bain Jr. at his best.
yeah,
Because one thing I wrote about him, and it's going to sound really daft, right? He'll play better in a phone box than he will out in space. Get him in the
yeah,
phone box.
yeah. Get him up close and personal, and he'll win more battles than he'll lose. Put him out on an island, and you'll come up to some of those shortcomings that you've just mentioned. The hands not being and the arms not being so long. He'll be found out more if you put him on an island and hope that he's going to set the edge on his own. But as you
It-
say, put him in a close quarter combat, and he'll cause chaos.
it's not even necessarily that. There were too many times that I watched him go after the quarterback and he'll win somewhat on the outside, and he'll play outside shoulder, and he'll get in right, kind of as some of the D edges do, they'll get in around the back.
Mm,
And right, I'm trying to figure out how I can play this in it. So I'm just going to do it from I'm the quarterback, right? So imagine me as a quarterback. It's probably not going to be that hard to do, Mahomes-esque. Um, you're
is that
coming
Mahomes
in,
S with the busted knee and the
Ruben Bain Jr. is coming. Yeah, actually, to be fair, similar story. I'm just slightly more athletic than he is, obviously. Um, Ruben Bain Jr. is coming in. Is over on my right. I've got my tackle taking him round the back of me. He beats the tackle, but I see the space out on the right, so I'm going to start escaping out the pocket to the right there.
yeah.
Ruben Bain Jr. is not going to get me because he'll overcook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'm talking about him being in space. Is if you keep him in the phone box where he's not got the space to work with, he'll be absolutely fine. And I've watched him against Ohio State, right? I was watching him throw offensive linemen to the floor
Mm-hmm.
without thinking about it. Like, he wasn't going into any real effort. Got his
It's
hands in,
just
threw a guy because he's that strong. He's that kind of
twitchy.
guy.
As I say, the violence is there that he can do that.
But
Yeah,
what he's not got is it's that ability to control the body, stop, turn, the agility at max speed, which
mm,
someone like David Bailey has. He has that body control. He's able to get that going. Um, so the amount of times again I've watched him just almost run past a quarterback behind him
yeah,
because as he's realized as he needs to start controlling his body, he just can't turn his body in time and stop and
yeah,
control his body to get and stop and turn, giving the quarterback the free out on the right. That's one of the he needs to be able to control his body, and that's why you don't put him far out on where the tight end would be and have him
yeah.
have that run because once it's a
Once
4-7,
he
right? And he's running at
overcommits, yeah,
260, 270. He'll be running at probably about 270 at a 4-7-2. That's a lot of body mass to stop and change direction for.
yeah. And as you say, once he's committed to that outside shoulder, he's going full out at it. He will get found out. The QBs will step into that gap that he then overcommits to, and he'll get turned and he'll come round, but it will take him a while to do it. So yeah, that's where Bailey does better, and in the measurables and the eye test, that Bailey's got that ability to control his body a bit more and get after the QBs if they step out of, I suppose Bailey's better at gap discipline, I think is what we'd probably call this, whereas Bain will leave a gap on the inside by overcommitting rather than set that edge properly. So it's
And
it's
it's not, I wouldn't say discipline, I'd just say body control
mm,
more than anything. Again, I think it just comes down to body control. Now, again, but I've seen him, again, it's not going at full speed. He is able to just to quickly to get some of that, but if he's not going at full speed,
full
coming in
speed.
on a
He's
round, he's, he's gone, he's done,
yeah,
right? But if you have him Someone like David Bailey can keep that body control and constantly try and keep square on the quarterback. So he's not going around the back of the quarterback where
Mm.
necessary. He's at the quarterback and running into that quarterback's body. Again, don't really let him out. The couple of things again with the short arms, and this is where the thing is like short arms aren't the end of the world. They're a problem, and they will be a problem for him in the NFL. I don't.
Yeah,
I can't. And I'm sorry to Jimmy over it. Canes across the pond. I love Ruben Bain Jr. I really, really do. I think he's definitely a top 10 pick. He's definitely going to be a wrecking
definitely
ball in
top
the NFL.
20. Might not, he might fall out of
But
the top 10. I got a feeling he might fall out of the top 10.
those short arms will cause him problems. And he's got an exceptional get off. Exceptional get off. And the hand placement initial, the first punch, as like a lot of defensive linemen have an initial punch. That It's debilitating, but not against better offensive linemen who square off and get the pads right. It's not debilitated. His second punch, his second move is not always the best. So
Yeah.
if he can't win on that initial physicality, sometimes he gets washed out of a play, right? He
Mm.
just gets washed out. Which can be a problem for him as well. So what I'd say on this one is it's just going to come down to what an NFL team personally feels like. If you can find a spot for Ruben Bain Jr. is like the edge in a 4-3 or inside, you want to put him inside an edge on a 3-4, inside on a 4-3. You want someone who's going to be physical, tough, but you just need to work on some of that hand placement. You can't work on getting his arms bigger. It's got to be the
No.
hand placement and just some of that body control. You will have like Ruben Bain Jr. for me is the number one defensive lineman in the class. If you want someone who's a little bit less disciplined in his approach, if you
Mm.
want someone who is just pure athleticism, has a lot of the different techniques already ready to go, but is a bit of a liability in the run game, bit less disciplined, um, and again can constantly get caught out if he has to think about what he's doing halfway through a play. David Bailey will be your guy, and it just comes down to what you would prefer as an NFL team. No offense to Nick, because if anything, as of normal, I would say that Ruben Bain Jr. is my favorite player out of the two, but the measurables for me make him fall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. As I say, I think I have a bit of a love for him. I think because of the violence and the pure physicality, and as you say, throw people around and whatnot. But I just think he will slide a little because people will go, "Oh, he's not that big, is he? His arms, no, 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 no." And I think he'll end up getting negatively impacted on that versus seeing how, as you say, put him in a phone box and watch him just, put him in like a WWE Royal Rumble. He'll be still there towards the end, right? He's going to be one of those last man standing, so he'll just fight everybody.
Yeah, and another defensive lineman I want to speak about is Aki Mesidor.
Mm.
Generally predicted to be the third defensive lineman off the board, maybe
Was it a
fourth.
Fork? I thought Fork was kind of open.
From everything
Interesting.
I see, it tends to be Aki Mesidor. Like here, they've got him as 19. Falk is the fucking horse Falk. Um,
Yeah, let's
oh no,
go.
there he is. No, I mean, yeah, I mean they've got Aki Mesidor as 19, Falk is 20. On where's the other place I'm going? Oh no, wait, no.
Dude, this isn't the one I'm looking at. He's got Fork. He's got Messidor way down to seventh. He's got Fork at three. Anyway,
I mean
this
Mesidor's
is the.
eighth on this one.
Yeah, there you
Um,
go. See, I was
oh wait, are
wondering.
you are you looking at Draft Buzz?
I'm looking at no, I'm looking at where am I looking? Walter Football. This is the joy of the draft. There's so many places you can go and find some
Um, but
opinions.
Draft Buzz has got Mesidor as the eighth ranked defensive lineman. Um, but NFL mock draft database has got him as the third.
Hmm.
And Falk as the fourth. But what between these two, what do you reckon, Falk or Messidor?
I would go Falk over Messidor. I think Messidor maybe benefited from being in a better team and having Ruben Bain Jr. as his counterpart, and therefore maybe got better better statistics, better measurable, not measurables, obviously. You can't really say that, but I think highlight reels more because Ruben Bain Jr. was causing such havoc. It allowed Messidor to get a little bit more spotlight. I think Auburn were bad. I mean, we know that Auburn weren't great. Um, but Falk was one of those shining lights in a pile of crap
Yes.
seasons. The diamond in the rough, or whatever you want to call it. He was one of the things that kept that Auburn team, relevant as much as it was his play. So I think
Hmm.
that's important to bear in mind. I think Messidor is more, you know, he's a good player, and I don't think he's a top. I don't think he's a first rounder. I don't think he's that high. I think he should be 7 or 8 in the list of players from the edge. He might, depending on how the night rolls. Obviously, somebody may love him and may think, oh, he did really well, but I do think he was a not comparison player. What's the word? I'm like a complementary piece
Yeah.
in that Miami defensive line. But because Ruben Bain Jr. was in there, that made his season and made his stats a little better.
Yeah. For me, Keldrick Falk is number two. So number two, number three in this.
Mm,
Um, over Messidor. But I mean, you're looking at his 6'6", ran a 4.67
not
with a
great, is it?
10-yard split of 1.68. Hands 9 and 7, 9 9 7/8 inches. Arm to 34 3/8 inches. Wingspan of 84. That's nine. That's top 94%. Sorry, top 6% even.
Mm,
Um, Not a great bench press, but that's okay. But he's very, very physical, and he was fantastic in the run game. He's an excellent run blocker. It's some of I'm gonna guess it's um
yeah.
explosiveness off the line,
Hmm.
and especially those pass rush moves needs quite a bit more work. But he will be more than serviceable as a pass rusher with high upside in the run game.
Definitely. And he's got a higher ceiling, I think, Falk. He's not got a lot of tape on him. He's not got a lot of miles on the tread. He's not played that much. But if you wanted to kind of get a highlight reel, go back and look at the game against Georgia. You know, it's stat line 7 tackles, so 7 solo tackles, 2 sacks. He was a bit of a bruising against that Georgia game, Georgia team. So, he does it when it matters against bigger teams. This was in 2004, 2005, not great, as I say, because 29 tackles, 2 sacks over the whole season, not a great stat. But the Auburn team in 2025 were not good. So, you know, I think there's upsides to Falk. But I think the problem, much like we've just talked about Ruben Bain, he either needs to bulk up and go internal, or he needs to lean down a little and go as a full edge. I think he's kind of in that half and half. He's a bit too heavy at 276, 280 to be an edge. If he dropped down to 260, 255, I think he'd be better on the end. He'd probably be a bit quicker. But he also has the frame to go the other way and be pretty disruptive in the internal as well. So again, much like Ruben Bain, may or may not have the versatility to be a multi-positional player for a team.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what about Akeem Mesidor then? Why could Akeem Mesidor go ahead of him, and what would it be? What would Akeem Mesidor? Why would Akeem Mesidor go ahead of him?
Just somebody likes him more.
Judge, elite level coverage there, Gary.
No, absolutely. So he just, he gets on with the coach. It's a better fit, a better scheme. I just think Falk has more potential upsides. He's younger. He's got more coachable stuff. I just think Messidor is it's he's already near enough as good as he's going to get. I don't think there's much more you'll get out of him. I just don't see him. Yeah, he'll be a solid pro and he'll have good, a good 8 year, NFL career. Maybe not as a starter, as a rotational piece. I just think he's just as what he is. He is now where he's going to be. He's not going to go much higher than that. He's not going to improve massively from where he is now. I don't think his skill set is as wide ranging and coachable. I think he's set in his own kind of ways, and that's kind of what you're going to get.
Yeah, I was watching a lot of the pro day stuff for Raheem Messidor and Ruben Bain. Now, by the way, I figured out. Um, I'll just break the news now to everybody. I'm quitting everything related to football and media, to the rejoice of many. I found a new career in football that I want, Gary,
Hmm.
and I feel like I could do it. I feel like I could take this career on.
Go
So
on
I
then.
was watching the drills, um, for defensive linemen. Like I say, this was specifically the Miami Pro Day. Now there is a guy who gets paid to hold a ball on a stick, right? So it is a football,
Hmm.
and there is a stick coming out of the football, and it must be about a few foot long. It looks like it looks like
It
a
looks like a
golf
selfie
club.
stick, doesn't it? Almost
Kind
like,
of,
yeah,
or like a golf club, but instead of like the bit where you hit the golf ball with, it's a football, right?
yeah,
And his job is to stand there with that ball on the floor and then move it an inch,
yeah.
move it an
And
inch.
and the
And
defensive ends, that's when
that's
they
when they can
smash into
consider
the
snap.
yeah,
The snap's
they've
been taken,
snapped it, and
right?
and the defensive ends and the linemen smash
But
into the
someone's getting paid to, if you're on YouTube, you'll probably see this, but someone's getting paid to stand there and just go,
yeah. There's
right?
an athletic trainer at every college who's getting paid to be that guy who just does that.
Like
It's a
he doesn't
defensive
even have to
lineman,
get
athletic. I mean, he's probably on every college has got one. At that defensive line assistant line coach, something or other, and his job is literally in training to have that ball on a stick and just go, "Eh," and they smash into the crate and smash into whatever they're called. I can't remember
I
what those.
want that job.
I
I
mean, we've
think,
we've talked about it as a career move. The best career move that's out there is being an NCAA coach because you get a long term contract, you get sacked, you get paid off, you get millions. Eh, But if you want a job that's
yeah,
not going to be stressful and is not going to, shall we say, tax you too much, that sounds to me like I want to be the ball on the stick guy.
I want to be the ball on a stick guy. I
Ball on a
do want to
stick
be the
guy.
ball on a stick guy.
That's it.
Um,
Set your sights high. Ball on a stick guy.
I'd be the best damn ball on a stick guy anyone's ever seen. I'm looking for generational ball on a stick. Right, I need to stop with this now because it's gonna start getting weird.
No, it's not the kind of thing you want to pass down to your kids, is it? Having your ball on a stick skill.
Um, do you know what? When you've got 2035, 2040, whatever it is, number one pick in the NFL draft, defensive end comes out and they're showing coverage of them on their pro day, taking
And
snaps,
you'll be
and
like,
I'm stood
that's my
next to
boy.
them being ball on a stick. You're gonna
Yeah,
sit there like, I know that ball on a stick guy. I know him. I know ball on a stick guy.
I know that guy. We talked about that guy before. Yeah. Could happen.
Um,
Could happen. Make it
so yeah,
happen.
my kids are gonna go.
Believe.
My dad
Believe.
was my dad was all over the NFL channels this week. Why? What was he doing? That with
That
a
it. That bit.
football. on
You
a
don't see
stick,
him. You might see you might see a finger or two, or
back
you
of my
might see a
head.
hand, back of your head, and maybe the back of your arm or something.
That's why I get a noticeable tattoo up my hand,
Yep.
and no one can say it wasn't me. Anyway, moving on to, I
We
mean, well, look,
digress. What do we think?
those
One
top.
those top two, I think are first rounders, like top 10, top 20, Baines Jr. and um, Bailey, right? Then I don't think anyone else is picked until round two. Honestly, I
Disagree.
don't I don't think anyone's taking Fork. Maybe the end. Maybe the Patriots take him at 31. Maybe.
I definitely think so. The Patriots are either going him or wide receiver, right? They're going to go
Mm.
one of those or wide receiver. But right, let's go through the back end of some of this draft. From 17, you got Detroit, Minnesota, Carolina, Dallas, Pittsburgh, LA, um, LA Chargers, sorry, Philly, Cleveland, Chicago, Buffalo, San Francisco, Houston, Kansas City, Miami, New England, Seattle, Miami and Kansas City will both be on their second
Second
pick of
pick
the
by
first
then, yeah.
round. Um, Quite easily, I could see a number of those, potentially a number of those. I can see the Lions going defensive line if they feel that that's BPA on the board. If
See the Browns? Did you say Browns could move? Browns are at 24, aren't they?
yeah, but we've
Yeah,
already
they need
seen the
more.
tantrum being thrown
Yeah.
if the pick doesn't go someone else's way.
Yeah.
Um, at 24, more joking, mate. The I do think there's a number of teams. Somehow the Eagles will be able to find the greatest defensive lineman to have ever existed at number 23. Because that's what Howie Roseman does. Um,
Somehow. Yeah.
I can see the Lions wanting to take defensive line,
But
especially
will
if
they
it's an
want an edge, or will they want an
edge,
edge, or will they want a defensive tackle?
edge.
Because some of the tackles are better, I think.
I think the Lions take edge, and I think because you want someone opposite Hutch, you've got Tyleik Williams from last year, our first rounder out of that
Mm.
school, and then yeah, I think we're set in the middle. We're going to be generally set in the middle. We've got what's his face on quite a large contract, Keem McNeil on a large contract in that middle of the middle of defensive line is sorted as long as they're healthy. I think you want someone opposite Hutch. Priority for me would be offensive line. So if we can get a Monroe Freeland, a Spencer Fano, or a Francis Marigoa, obviously Marigo's not going to be there at 17 whatsoever. But and I can see us
So
jumping up a bit. But priority would be
I can
offensive
see
line
Freeling
and see
being
the
there.
Lions going.
Maybe I can see Monroe Freeling being there for you. I think Fano will go before then because I think he's better. He's the better of the options, but I think Freeling might still be there. Maybe.
It depends how the board falls on the day at the end of the day. But I think one of those offensive linemen will probably be there. If not, they'll
Hmm.
still be there at 14. And I can see, or potentially there at 14, 15, and I can see Brad Holmes making the call with the Rams at 13.
Mm.
Right? I can see something like that taking place. Um, or with the Ravens at 14. So I don't know. Maybe the Jets or the Bucks don't go offensive linemen because they might be looking at if Spencer Fano falls, right? I
Yeah,
don't care what the Jets want at 16. If
16.
Spencer Fano's there, you say, God damn
Okay,
it,
Jets.
that's
Jets
a
are going to
top
want
10.
Ty Simpson, right? So Jets would prefer to take Ty Simpson at
But would Ty
19, 20.
Simpson still be there in round
Sorry,
two?
not.
Probably.
Would the
At
Cardinals
33.
want? I
At
don't know.
33.
I reckon the Cardinals might sneak in at 32 or come in. I mean, I just on the 49ers show, I was saying we should be selling our 27 to either the Cardinals or the Jets. We should be hawking that 27 pick out there, going, who wants it? Which one of you two? Come on, that QB there. You want that QB? You know you do. Give us your top. Give us a pick in the second and a couple in the third because we've short on picks. We should be selling that pick.
Yeah, I mean fair, but I can see the Jets holding off until 33,
Mm.
potentially to try and get Ty Simpson, or waiting until next because they've got Geno Smith in the building. Just wait till next year. Um, like don't,
But
but you can like at the end of the day get the insurance
yeah,
before you get the house, right?
yeah.
But
This
at the
time
end,
you set your assurance up first. Yeah,
right at the end of the day, this insurance comes at a rate I'm never going to beat. And
yeah.
okay, we don't know what you're going to be like next year, but when you've got insurance that good at that kind of price next year, and it don't matter what house you get, so next year you can go buy a fucking mansion and you've got insurance on that mansion at a really damn good price.
Yeah.
You're not paying X amount of dollars, pounds, whatever, a month that would be an extortionate amount for insurance on $1 million house. You've got it on the couple of hundred a month that would be not for the extortionate
Mm.
rates for $1 million house per se. That is a horribly butchered analogy, but you get where I'm going with it. Um,
Think
60
so.
BP, just BPA,
Mm.
just go BPA. The Jets, you need too much.
Yeah, Danny.
The Jets need
Interesting.
too
This
much.
just
Go get
just while we're
BPA.
talking about this, and we talked about Francis Moringa, offensive tackle Miami. We think he's going to go early. There's rumors about there saying he's going to have to go back for some checks on his back, so that could be an interesting thing to track
Um,
from an offensive lineman point of view. Chef this on Twitter. Right, defensive tackles. Are we doing because we've done ends, and I think there's
yeah,
top
we'll have
two,
to
and
fly
then
through this one though. Um,
we're going to be super quick, super quick.
that's what she
And that's
said.
why when you were saying about that, I mean, I don't see I see some of the defensive tackles and the interior defensive linemen being a better fit later in the first round than some of the lower end edges. I think you can get those edges. There's a good class and it's deep, but you can get them in the second. You can get them in the second round. You don't need to use a first round on them because they're still going to be there the way the draft's been for. I think some of the defensive tackles you want to get if you want to build a defense and you want to get some good ones in, you got to use those that pick on your tackles or your interior defensive linemen, whatever you want to call them. And I think there's some better ones there than there are. I think there's a better skill set. I don't think there's such a drop off between the top one, two. We just talked about there's the top two defensive edges, and then there's a bit of a drop, and then there's the rest of them that is much of a muchness. From 3 to 7, you can pick and
Yeah.
choose scheme fit and whatever else. Whereas I think with tackles, I think it's deeper. You know, top 3, 4, 5 maybe are all much of a muchness. So I think they'll go more than the edges will. But I think Caden McDonald's number one.
Oh yeah, by far. Um,
Just to put that out there before we delve into anything else. Clear number
I
one.
hate it, but yeah,
Yeah,
yet another player at another position where the best one coming out and going into the draft is from them,
from them, that other school.
that other school that exists.
Yeah, not the everything school, because
Oh,
obviously they
not
one thing
at
they don't have,
all. They're
one thing they don't have
pathetic at
is
everything
a
else.
yeah, one thing they don't
Um,
have is a national
they're
title in basketball, is it? However,
no, they're pathetically bad at everything else, whereas Michigan just tend to be amazing at everything. Um, right, best thing I've heard about him all year. One of my favorite quotes of it: "Human-sized roadblock."
yep, literally you can plug him in. He will start for you day one. Unusually for a defensive end and defensive lineman, he is going to be your third. He's going to be your 3 down, early down. Get him in, play him out. He is going to just wreck ball. He is just, yeah. You
I've
won't
been
run past him. You won't run through him. You won't run around him. He's just
I've been open about before about how I'm not a big guy,
hmm,
right? I'm 5'9", 5'10", so bare average height. My weight is about average. Used to be up until a couple of years ago. dangerously skinny, like
Hmm.
underweight. Um, and growing up, I've always been on the shorter side of tall, right? Of
Yeah,
shorter than average height. And it wasn't until I was about 13, 14, and I just jump and
you
grow really quickly into
caught
average
up with your
height.
age group. Yeah.
Um, so I've been through this before, right? Now I've always been a bit more of a fighter than I think. I've been more of a scrappy dude than I think I'd ever tended to realize, right? I'm always up for a scrap, but I'm tiny and I'm short and probably shouldn't be, right? Picking on kids, they're all bigger than me. Never a problem picking on kids that are not my size, right?
Of course
Um,
not.
have you ever so I've been in this position. Have you ever pushed someone? It's normally about, say, especially when you're a kid, they'd be like a foot taller than you. They'd be almost double your weight, and you
Yeah.
push them, and you go backwards.
Yeah. And you sort of go, oh, whoops. That moment where
Right.
your
So,
body, when you realize you just go, oh,
and you kind of you end up like a couple of yards back. You take you have to stop for a second, realize what you've done, and you go, well, I can't go through him.
yeah,
Can't go round him because he's a big fat fucker. Can't go over him because that's just not how things work in
in real world. Yeah.
reality. Um, this isn't some sort of ninja film where I can float in the air. But I'm just like those kind of people that I was going back on some of the defensive tackles is not where I've done the most of my work.
Hmm.
I spent too long, and this is God's honest truth, too long debating between David Bailey and Ruben Bain Jr. and watching
Yeah.
too much tape, too many comparison things, getting in too many opinions. So I haven't had the time on the defensive tackles that I thought I'd want. But going in on um some of the things that I've kind of seen from him and going on, it's that guy. It's the
Exactly.
guy that you put. He gets center's trying to push him go backwards.
Yeah.
They
He's
can't move him.
they can't move him. He is your old school nose tackle, right? He's not a, we talk about interior offensive lineman and that could just be playing off guard and playing off the tackle. He's a nose tackle. He will line up over the center. He will make sure your A gaps are plugged. He will not allow teams to run inside. And that's key in any defense to ensure that you've got that. He's just gonna plug that hole and he's not gonna get shifted. He's not gonna move off. He's not gonna be bullied around. He is, yeah, he's just what you want. If you've got, I mean, he's not the most mobile, but you don't
No.
really need him to be. You want him to be there and not be shoved around. As you say, you want people to bounce off him. You want people to kind of go backwards once they hit him, or you don't want him running to the outside and setting the edge and dropping into coverage. He's not that player. That is not what he's going to do. That is not where his strengths are. He is going to stuff that A gap. He's going to stuff the run on first and second down to allow you then on third down to maybe rotate him out for your speedier edge guys and whatever else, because that's when they're in now passing situations because he's plugged the run for the first two and they're in 3rd and 8 and it's an obvious passing situation. That's the kind of guy you need. And it's you can build a defensive line around him. You could build a defensive mindset, if you like, a new DC could go in there with a high round pick and pick him and go, right, here's a centerpiece. I know the center of my DB line is sorted. Let's find the other pieces.
Um,
Peter Woods out of Clemson.
Peter Woods is the best one. I think you're talking a 1A, 1B, I think, in terms of defensive
Yeah,
tackles. Caden McDonald's 1A, but Peter
yeah,
Woods is he's the more athletic version. He's smaller,
yeah.
in terms of height, terms of weight, terms of span, hands, arm. Faster though, nearly half a second faster in terms of the 40, which is
Yeah.
a good bit of
I
distance.
mean, again, another one of those, like we saw with that Falk at Auburn. Clemson were bloody awful. Bloody awful. However, you go back to the 2024 season, Peter Woods was phenomenal. Now, the Clemson fit for last year had him playing, they had him playing an edge. They had him playing all over the place. They did not utilize him in the best way. So you've got to kind of take the 2025 season with a little bit of a pinch of bad coaching, bad team, just bad all over, and and played out of position. If you watch the 2024 tape on Peter Woods, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. Um, Much better upside, I think. Definitely a 1B because of last year. He'll probably get a slight knock on that, but should still easily be top 25 pick max. I don't see him falling much below that. If he's
What?
there at 27,
Yeah,
I would be snapping his hands off as a Niner, even though we don't desperately need that. But he would be BPA at that point in time, and you would take him.
yeah. Hang on. Right. I agree with why does it always show election stuff? So you talk about teams, and this is actually a really important thing I think we've not really spoke about yet on the pod when it comes down to drafting people. Um, Teams being terrible, but you know, players being good
Yeah,
and all that crap. Um, who was the number 2 overall pick last year? Last year, one of the best players to come out of college, extremely insanely good talent,
it wasn't Jared
Heisman
Verse, was it?
winner.
Oh, the thingy. What's his dual guy?
Yep,
Went to the Jags.
yep.
Thingy.
Travis Hunter.
Hunter. Jesus Christ, it took me a while.
Now, admittedly, if I'm going to be fair, they were. Can you remember what Colorado's final? No, no, I don't think it was 9-3. They went 9-3 in the
9-3.
regular
They went
season.
9. They still had a
It-
reasonably okay season,
that
but
was good, right? Clemson went 7-6. Now, what's the embarrassing part of this, Gary, is they only had a .500 record in the ACC. Could you imagine if your school didn't even have a .500 record in the ACC? I'd be embarrassed if that was mine, wouldn't you?
speaking of which,
Yeah.
Darrell
Okay.
Jackson, defensive tackle coming out of Florida State,
Yeah.
might be a little bit of one
I
of those
like him.
lower round steals that might
I really
be.
like him.
I like him. He's a disruptor and played on a shockingly bad team, as we've just discussed. Really bad.
I
But
haven't said anything about Florida State.
no, sure you haven't. Maybe I'm just feeling like I'm mm. I think yeah, he is one he'll be no, I'll say sleeper. I don't want to say a sleeper later on in the rounds and, 2 or 3. If you get him in round 3, you're doing really well. You're getting a guy who's going to actually be really quite a helpful, useful addition. He's a big unit, though. He does not move very quickly, but he's done, Senior Bowl, he turned up and really showed out. And I think he's one that is one of those late round ones. If you're knocking around and you're like, who should we take in round 4? And he's still on the boards, take him because you can never you can never go wrong with having rotational pieces on your D line who are actually good and have been through, if you like, the ringer and played on bad teams and still look good. That's that's the eye test there. If a team is bad, but yet you're still able to pick out one of those players, that's one of those ones. But
Yeah.
that's day 2 or 3. That's later on. But he's one to kind of stick a pin in to think about.
Yeah. I think, Gary.
I want to talk about one more player though.
Oh,
I want to talk about this guy. Um, Even though he plays for Florida, Caleb Banks is an interesting one to me. He played, he had a broken foot, and then he came back and he blew the doors off at the combine. Had a great combine, really measured well. Everyone's suddenly going, oh, hello, has re-aggravated the foot injury.
Mm.
Now, as a bloke who's 6'6", 327, do you worry? Is that something, a foot injury and a guy that size? Is is that a big enough red flag for him to drop?
He'll
Because
drop,
he'll drop, but will he drop beyond where he really should
which
because of
is
the injury? I think he's a late first, early second rounder.
right.
But will he drop to mid to late second because
I
of
can
that and people be worried? And if that's the case, again, someone in the late seconds is picking up but the risk there is foot injury in a big lad like that. We've had it before in the Niners where we drafted guy out of Florida State actually. Drake Johnson was an absolute freak of an athlete, but just could never get fit after knees and feet and niggles. So I'm slightly concerned by that one.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. You got to keep an eye on. Oh, there'll be people checking in. Like NFL teams will be checking in on it, and it depends if it's degenerative or not, and if it can be
Yeah.
like if
Or
it's a case of just
if it's
get
a
back,
case of just
rehab it
came back
well.
too quickly just because it was a combine and he wanted to show
Yeah.
up and he kind of took a pain pill and kind of went and did it and then it's actually if the fracture hadn't quite healed or whatever it was and it's re-aggravated it, probably, we'll overlook that a bit. But
Well,
if it's something that's a bit more than that, then yeah.
he broke his fourth metatarsal at the
Yeah.
combine, didn't he?
And
Um,
still set up, numbers even with that. And it's a broken bone in the foot, and you think, you just rest it, and there's not much you could do with a broken method of the fourth one. You can't splint it, you can't do anything with it.
well, he had surgery on
So
it.
I suppose you can pin it, but yeah. And then, but yeah, the worry is it something that is then is it because he's overusing that foot or he's overpronating on it and he's putting too much pressure on it? Is it something that's going to keep reoccurring, or is it just one of those unfortunate, bad luck things?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to. I think it's just going to come down to everyone's going to. The NFL teams will have a look at it. They'll see if they can diagnose where it's come from. They'll probably speak to the doctors. They'll speak to their medical staff, see what they can. And again, it's going to be a case of he'll still obviously look. He'll still be drafted. You don't take late day one, day two people who don't get drafted whatsoever because of
Hmm.
an injury like that they will come back from. You just tend to find that like I say, it's the how much of an asset are you willing to give up for someone like that?
Yeah.
Um, Not whether you are going to be willing to give an asset up or not. It's going to be just which one. Um, right. So that's it. I think for us. And to be quite honest, Gary, I think it's the best time to go because I'm going to see you tomorrow anyway, because we have a brand new special episode coming out.
Special edition.
Hopefully this weekend. Um, that'll be the weekend of the 11th and 12th. I'm hoping 12th, the Sunday, as tends to be our special guest day. Special episode day tends to be a Sunday, but we shall see. Really excited about this one. Stay tuned to AAW_CFB if you want to find out who that is over the coming days. If not, just tune in on Sunday and you will find out when the episode turns up. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Until then, like I say, follow AAW_CFB on Twitter, on Instagram. Follow G, a billion R's, a billion O's, a few V's, couple of Y's.
Just the
With
one
them,
Y, 463 G463Y. That's all you need to remember.
right, that's Gary's password. We know that one now. You figured out. Um, G463Y, 4R6 zeros, three nope,
These.
three V's and a
And they're
Y.
not zeros, they're O's. But anyway, moving.
Groovy.
Oopie. That's
Uh,
where you'll
and
find me.
myself, and myself, Lions Guy Fletch on Twitter, and well, yeah, you can go into the links in the description of the episode to find them out, and we will see you next week, where hopefully we will have Nick back. We plan to have
Just to
Adam
keep us
back,
on track.
and as far as it says right here, we will also have Sam back. We'll have a full house next week to
Full house to
talk
do the
about
linebackers.
linebackers and
Ooh.
defensive backs.
Are we trying to? Oh, we're going to do backs. We're going to do all the backs, are we? The linebackers and the DBs.
That's the plan
Oh,
because we'll have one more episode left after next week before the draft, but that'll come out on draft day.
Ray. Yeah.
Um,
Oof.
because next week, 15th, the
Mm-hmm.
episode will be out on the 16th. The week after that, we'll be recording on the 22nd, and it'll be out on Thursday, the
Drop
23rd,
draft
which is the
day.
draft. So we want something a bit different, a bit special out on that day, and not a full breakdown of a position group. Um,
Cool.
So next week, linebackers and defensive backs with Adam, Fletch, Nick, Garrett, and Sam. But I promise you something will come up over the next week that means not everyone can make it, is what it is. Then after that, we'll do something pre-draft, and hopefully we might even try and get Hurdle the line on. On the 22nd of April, will come out though our NFL Hurdle
Hurdle the
bollocks to it.
NFL.
Asleep at Work Network's third annual mock draft featuring Heard of the Line, College Football UK, The Fantasy Den, and Unsportsmanlike Conduct will all be
Mm-hmm.
on there. So plenty to come up for AAW underscore network, AAW underscore CFE for all the updates. Lions Guy Fletch, G463Y,
There it is.
and we will see you on Sunday.
Bye for now.